The Stateside Soccer Show is now covering Ted Lasso.
If that's a joke, I love it. If not, I cannot wait to unpack that with you.
That's no joke. The Stateside Soccer Show now presents Believe Cast. We aren't talking about faith or ghosts.
Do you believe in ghosts, Ted?
I do. But more importantly, I think they need to believe in themselves.
We are talking Ted Lasso episode recaps. So sit back, get ready for us to discuss all the tea.
You know, I always figured that tea was just going to taste like hot brown water. And you know what? I was right. Yeah, it's horrible.
Hello and welcome to Belief Cast, presented by the Stateside Soccer Show, where we recap Ted Lasso Season 3. My name is Jordan, and with me, as always, is Logan. How are you today, Logan?
Oh, fantastic. Every time I hear that theme song, I'm like, where did he find that song? Because it sounds just
YouTube.
like... Okay, because it sounds just like a Ted Lasso song.
That's why I picked it.
It's very flute, very whimsical, a lot of fun. I just feel happy when I hear it. So I wrote it. I was just listening.
I wrote it.
Oh, that's right. Did you play it on the violin?
Yes.
Okay. Cool.
Yep. Cello. I take after Higgins
cello
here,
guy.
right?
Yeah.
But no, I found it on YouTube. If anybody is looking for like copyright free music, YouTube's like the sound library has copyright free songs that you can pick.
Yeah, no, it sounds great. I love it. I love
where I get all of my theme songs.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they're pretty good. But yeah, so we have 2 episodes remaining after this of Ted Lasso Season 3 and perhaps the whole series. And we are talking episode 10 of the season. This would have been it if it was Season 1. Season 3, episode 10, we still have 2 left. Called International, which was directed by Matt Lipsey and Jane Becker, premiered May 17th, 2023. And the Apple TV synopsis was, while some of the Greyhounds head home to play for their countries in international, Edwin Akufo brings a business proposal to Rebecca. So we kind of thought maybe it would be buying the club, but it's more based in reality of what's been going on since Ted Lasso has premiered with the Super League stuff. But overall, Logan, your thoughts on this 1 hour and 3-minute behemoth?
I laughed. I cried. I thought that this was probably one of my favorite episodes. I think I texted you that. This was, if it's not my favorite, this was high up there on my list of favorites. I still think the Tartt scene really does it for that episode in season 1, but this episode had all the stuff that you look for. And I know that we've talked about Jason and Brett being writers on these last couple of episodes. They're the ones that really focus on Brendan Hunt too, I believe, were the writers on these last couple of episodes. So it does have, I don't know, it felt very much like...
They write the next 2.
Oh, is it the next 2?
Yeah, this one was Jane Becker.
Okay, well, bring Jane back because she's great. But no, I felt like, I don't know, it just had a really good old feel to season 1. I felt like it was very comparable to kind of the feeling that I had watching season 1 for the first time. So again,
Jane Becker has wrote No Weddings and a Funeral and Trent Krim the Independent.
Oh, so both great episodes.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, she again knocks this one out of the park. I thought, it had it all. And I know we'll get to certain character arcs, but man, I just felt like with one in particular, it moved me because I was like, I wasn't ready for that. And I wasn't ready for that kind of story in his character arc. And it just, I don't know, it really did. It has me feeling all sorts of good ways about where the show's headed these last couple of episodes. So.
Yeah, we've got two left. We'll preview episode 11 before we get out of here with the title and what that's about. But international break. Yeah, I actually like this episode a lot too. I was going to make a joke that no, I hated it. The way people have been lately. But I did see a lot of praise for this episode, so I do feel like it's a pretty popular episode. I do see people saying we only have 2 episodes left. How are they going to wrap all this stuff up? I felt like this episode did a lot of legwork to wrap stuff up. I really feel like, we get Roy and Keeley stuff in this episode that maybe wraps that up. We have Rebecca's feud with Rupert kind of get wrapped up. We have the Nate storyline with West Ham get wrapped up. It's like all we really have to wrap up right now is Ted and maybe Nate with the rest of the team. But we even got Nate wrapping it up with Will the Kit Man, right? Like, I don't know if there's that much more to wrap up, honestly, other than Richmond football focus, right? Like Richmond, where the state of the club goes, because I feel like a lot of the character stuff started getting wrapped up in this episode, and now we probably have 2 episodes to wrap up that and give the club a proper send-off. I mean, it looks like tonight's episode is 1 hour 9 minutes, which is now the longest episode. So just like that's almost 2 episodes of season 1, which means you have plenty of time to wrap stuff up.
Mm-hmm.
This episode showed that 1 hour 3 minutes, and it wrapped up a lot of stuff. A little quick, a little whiplash with immediate Nate being out at West Ham. I remember texting you, and you were texting me like, "This episode's crazy. I'm only 10 minutes in." I'm like, I wonder what that means. And then I sit down, and yeah, Nate's out at West Ham. Like, I was like, "Oh crap, this is quick." I was like, "Man, this is really quick."
I couldn't believe it. Like I was like, what? And I was kind of going, did I miss an episode? Like, wait, what?
Yeah, did we miss something?
I'm so confused.
End
but it
credit
was literally,
scene?
yeah. But it was right after he had that bad experience of Rupert at the bar. Like, so what you said is true. Like, it was so quick. And I'm assuming over the next couple of episodes, because Rebecca asked Rupert what happened to Nate Shelley. And he goes, sometimes it's just that managers just aren't the right fit.
They're not ready or something.
Yeah, that they're just not ready for the prime time.
Yeah, there you go.
And it was like, okay, so I think over obviously the next 2 episodes, because they're longer, we're going to get more backstory. I don't know if we're quite done with Keeley and Roy yet. Like, I think there's still kind of something there with Jamie too. So I think we're going to get to kind of a collision there because of how close they've become. Because I think Jamie still has feelings for Keeley. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, I did. I felt like it, like you said, I mean, Nate getting released right away. And the way it opened up with Sky Sports breaking the news, it's like, what is happening? Like, that was so quick. But Jordan, I really do feel like more so than ever, I felt like this episode really gave me the feeling that they're wrapping up what is this version of Ted Lasso.
I saw some people complain that the Nate stuff was too quick. And when I say it was quick, I don't mean it negatively, because I actually liked it. And the reason I liked it is because it left me guessing.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there because they don't know either, right? They're like, he's just out. Like, we don't understand. Nobody is reporting or could get the accurate scoop. We don't even get the scoop really until Nate talks about how he quit to Jade, right? Like, did I do the right thing leaving my job? Okay, this was his decision. We don't really know why. And it left us guessing and left us having questions throughout the episode. And I like when shows do that. I think it's too easy sometimes to just say, all right, I don't think they were like, shit, we have 3 episodes left, he's got to leave. I think they were like, let's put these customers, these viewers, to be a little uneasy with where they find themselves at the beginning of this episode. I've seen this happen in tons of other shows that I watch, where it starts kind of like what they call in media res, right? And you jump in the middle of a story and you're kind of like, did I miss something? The answer is no. They want you to feel this little unease as you try to work out what has happened as well. You're sitting there like, oh no, I think it's this thing that happened. And it's leaving you guessing until you're finally able to put the pieces together. I was watching Arrow yesterday, and I'm on the final season of that, and they did something similar where it started out that episode and you're like, all right, this is what? Did I miss something? And Joy barely has seen episodes. She's like confused too. She's like, "What doesn't this?" I'm like, "You're not supposed to know right now. Like you're supposed to state of not knowing." And that's what this episode of Ted Lasso did right off the cuff here. I really enjoyed that, and it shows that Nate, if we take it from how quick it was, I don't really know. I don't know because they're on a 10-game win streak, Richmond. So this doesn't happen right after, right? This doesn't happen right after the dinner, the guys' night.
Right.
But I do think that lasted in his mind long enough to where he was totally uncomfortable with the situation, and he decided, I can't be here anymore. I always forget each time that this guy on Soccer Saturday, by the way, is the original coach from season 1. I always forget that.
Me
and
too.
He's like,
Yep.
he was my kit man. And I'm like,
Yep.
oh yeah.
Yep.
Because he's kind of a forgettable character, by the way. But he's always throwing shade at Nate and like how, well, it's all Rupert. He's got this love affair with Rupert because Rupert was his boss when he was at Richmond. So he's like, it's actually Rupert, the one that turned West Ham around, not Nate Shelley. He's a kit man. He's not a genius. So I thought that was interesting how they kind of leapt in with that storyline. But again, we're not supposed to know. We're supposed to figure it out as we go. And we don't really still know what the impetus of it was, right? What caused him to leave, we can kind of guess. I think with the way that it was, where he goes home and he's playing with his violin and he's trying to get back to his roots, that he felt like he lost himself along the way here. And he was good. He went away from the bar when Rupert was trying to hook him up with somebody, so he was good there. But I think he started questioning, why am I trying so hard to impress this guy who's just a total douchebag and cheats on his wife and cheats on his wife and cheats on his wife? How many wives that Rupert's had? It just continues this thing. He's like, I don't want to do that. And it kind of left him in this untenable position where he knows what's going on with Rupert. The power dynamic is totally shifted at this point. Oh no, I think again, season 3, the Nate storyline has been my favorite.
Yeah, it's kind of like that stereotype in stories of the hero's journey. Like he goes out, he experiences some kind of setback, a challenge that he must overcome, a lesson is learned, and then he returns home, physically home, and learns a lesson of how he's transformed, and then he comes back a new person. So it's got that real nice. Honestly, like I did feel like after the first time we really see Nate in season 3, I was like, oh, I still can't stand him. And then after that, it was so well done and so beautifully placed, and I think paced out really well, that you start to just see Nate unravel in a way that it's like, oh no, that was all still there. This was just one of those moments where he got so caught up. And I think, we can all say that, like, I think Ted does kind of, in a way, owe Nate an apology, in a sense of like, I'm sorry if you felt like you were forgotten. Right. And I think that was kind of like what he was talking about. I think there's been moments where Ted this season, when he's talking about things, when he was talking with Colin about being gay, and he was talking about like, I'm sorry that, like you are important, right? That you are heard and we hear you and we're there for you.
And we should have been there for
Yes.
you. That friend storyline could have easily been instead if he
Nate
talked
too.
about Nate.
Yep.
Where he was my friend. I wasn't realizing that I wasn't there for him.
Yep.
The way he needed me to be there for him. And I think that's what we're building to for the final episode. I think we're getting teased with it each week.
Yeah.
Especially that week where they go to West Ham and
Yeah.
they almost have this conversation, but Ted gets called to the bus while Nate is, talking with Rupert. And they've kind of been building to this. I don't know. I'm really excited for when he finally is able to brave. It's got to come from him, I think. I think Nate needs to be the one to initiate it. because we've seen him almost initiate it a few times now. We've seen him at that game almost initiate it when he wants to apologize to Ted. We see him almost initiate it when Rupert texts him and says, "Hey, Ted will never show up at this ground again." And he almost messages it back, "It's fine. I thought it was funny." And he could tell he goes home to Jade and he's seeing the picture of Ted, Henry, and Beard watching, and he's happy, smiling. She says, I love seeing my boyfriend smile. But he hasn't still reached out. So I do think that is the next step. And I don't think it comes in episode 11. I think it comes in episode 12 is probably when I think we get that.
Yeah, it seems to be the pinnacle in which they're wanting to reach. Like that seems to be the storyline that
crescendo, right?
Yeah, like I feel like that really, like I feel like it is the peak in which they're trying to get to, because we're just sitting there because we want Nate and Ted to be friends and to go on in life and be friends because of how much I think Ted means to Nate, and I think how much Nate means to Ted. So I think you're building to that. And I think that's the relationship everybody wants to see. I think in this episode, you might see him kind of make amends with maybe players, right? So I think we're kind of building up. Maybe Nate makes even amends with maybe Beard or Roy or, somebody close enough to Ted where we start to see even more progression. And then I think you're right, Jordan. I think in episode 12, I think you see finally that moment. And I think we're going to get some great stuff out of that conversation, because I think it'll be a longer conversation. It'll be dramatic. I think it'll have that Ted feel of like, I'm sorry that if you've ever felt that I did something to you, but know that I've always just been here and I'm always going to continue being here for you. So yeah, I'm waiting for it. I'm excited.
You know what I want to see? And this might sound too romantic. It's almost like, but Ted Lasso is like a rom-com.
Yeah.
I could see this happening where if it does happen, like the next step in this episode, right? We know they're going to Man City. What if the first public appearance of Nate Shelley is wearing Richmond gear in Manchester City, Etihad, and he's cheering on Ted?
Yep.
Like, could we see something like that? I think that would be really cool, to where then the press are like, oh, look, it's like almost a reversal from when Ted showed up, where you have Nate photographed there and then Ted's like, look at that, and then you finally have them reach out and actually make the, extending the hands, right. To embrace again. So I think that'd be a really cool way. I'm getting like goosebumps about my little fanfic there, but
I got goosebumps when he put that olive branch on Will's, and he said, he signed it Wonder Kid. Like he did all of Will's job, and Will, man, that kid's a great actor. Like, gosh, he's good. I mean, that was just a moment where he didn't say anything. He was just reading a note that Nate had left. The locker room was all put together as a kit man would put it together. And I just got chills. I got emotional with it too. I was like, gosh, this is such a great show. Like, this is such a great scene. He didn't have to say anything. He just kind of gives that smile, like, I forgive you for harassing me, pretty much.
Yeah, I saw somebody complain that he signed it Wonder Kid, but that is literally Will came up with that, right? Yeah. For him, so it fits. It wasn't like he was trying to show off still. He was, giving a nod.
That's what they called him,
to Will. Yeah, right. So that was nice. But yeah, I could probably gush on and on about this Nate storyline the whole time. And, when
how about the father stuff? Like, how are you with that? That one broke me completely.
Nate, I cried, man. This episode made me cry, especially that violin stuff's going on at the same time Rebecca's speech is going on, which is the romance of soccer, and that made me cry. And this whole episode was really great stuff, but the father stuff was good too. I feel like for whatever reason, TV shows and movies kind of lean into this, maybe too much, you could say, but the daddy issues, right?
Yes.
But it works. It works almost every single time for whatever reason. And I have no daddy issues, but it still works. That is something you can kind of relate with, of just like, I can't relate to it in the sense of I have that, but like putting
Yeah.
myself of I can't imagine what it'd be like to never live up to your parents' pictures of you or in their head or what they expected. But I really liked when his dad was like, I always liked when you played. And he's like, really? Because
Right.
you always like hated it.
Yeah.
But
And he goes, when did I ever say that? He goes, you literally said you hated when I played.
But he was always, in his mind, the dad's mind is he's pushing Nate to become even better and even better. And it doesn't work like that. While it does kind of work in the sense of if you're never good enough, you feel like you got to keep striving. It creates this wedge between you and your child to where they'll look like that the way Nate did, right? Where he's like, sorry, I'll put this away then. He feels like he can't win in anything with his dad, and they had this lovely exchange where they finally put that behind them.
Yeah, there's that sense of like, there's always going to be discontent or what is the word? I'm trying to come up with the word that it's like you just have that. Oh, there it is. Resentment. Like you just have that resentment that Nate feels towards his dad. And it was like that moment of the violin. Did you know, Jordan, that the Nick Mohammed actually plays the violin? So he's actually playing that. And then an even cooler thing is that his wife in real life is the one playing the piano off screen.
Oh, really?
In that song. Yep. I was like, that's so cool because he tweeted it out after. But also, Nate Mohammed also just tweeted out. This is kind of going with
Nick Mohammed. You called him Nate Mohammed.
Yeah, Nick Mohammed. Nick Mohammed actually tweeted out a picture 12 hours ago that said "Dear Ted," and that's all it says. So, yeah.
So maybe we get him reaching out via a note first, and then next episode we bury the hatchet fully, or maybe it is all in this one, and then we kind of have like this finale send off. I don't want to speculate too much here about the finale, but are you expecting some sort of time jump? I am. I'm expecting like at least like Trent's book is out and that's the time jump type thing.
Yeah, I think 100%. I think maybe even a year. I think we get some kind of conclusion that's like maybe Richmond win a cup or something. I don't know. Like I'm just picturing this. They win a cup or they qualify for year. Well, something exciting for the club, right? But I think too, like
10-game win streak can do that for you. I mean,
right? Like they're
good.
magically going to win the Premier League. But I also picture like this all coming together. They have this moment, and then we get that flash forward, right, of a year. Like this is what's happening a year later, and it is. I think it's Ted. I think it's too much speculation, but I think it's Ted back in Kansas with his kid. Whether he's married, I don't know. Or he's back with his wife. Who knows? But I do think we get more of that.
Yes,
I think
we got to wrap that up still because we don't know the whole Michelle storyline after the Paris stuff too.
Yeah. Also, you know what a year technically could mean for Rebecca, right?
Child.
Yeah. So we get that. A year for a relationship with Keely or Roy. Keely and Jamie. That could be a lot. Jamie in a new club. Jamie back in a new city after... I think that might be coming. Maybe we get to
Jamie on another season of some sort of reality show.
Right. Love Island. Right. No. But yeah, no.
Is that what it was? Was it actually Love Island or
it
did
was
they
kind
call
of,
it
it's supposed to be like that. It's not actually Love Island, but I forget what they call it. It's like basically a ripoff version of a Love Island. So I think it's like
Lust Conquers All is what it was.
Yeah, that was it. So but yeah, I don't even know where we were talking about that. But yeah, I think just speculating going forward, I think a time jump has to be coming. That's the whole reason Trent Crimm's book exists.
I think so too, but I'll see that's something I will be disappointed in if we don't get some sort of payoff about Trent Crimm's book, and it was just their way of giving him more access to the season, like more screen time.
Even if it's a draft, even if it's a first copy of like,
I'm expecting like a voiceover at the end is Trent Crimm reading this book. And you see the characters going their other ways, and it's going to be as close to wrapped up as it can be, and Apple's going to be pissed.
Yeah. with some hole that they could go, you know what? They didn't wrap
Yes,
up Higgins.
yeah, they could.
They didn't wrap up Higgins. We're going with that guy.
Yeah, I would
Jordan
watch a
being
Higgins
thrilled.
show. No problem.
He takes over like LA Galaxy and just fixes that problem.
He goes to like a jazz bar, and it's a whole new thing of him.
It's like
he
Cheers.
goes to New Orleans. Yeah, it's like Cheers and Frasier, where they like the spinoff has nothing to do with the other show. They pick one character out of there.
And throw him
Higgins
in a
is now
city.
in New Orleans. He's playing jazz everywhere. I'd watch it still. Yeah, so I guess let's talk the international break real quick. Just the characters,
This is
all that
great.
good stuff. Sam doesn't get caught up. We'll find out why later, but they kind of open up the show with the Nate stuff, and they also say about how they're expecting Sam to get called up to Nigeria for his first ever debut, and he doesn't. Turns out that Edwin Akufo has paid off the Nigerian, he said government, it'd be more like the Federation. This is something they kind of got wrong here, I guess.
Yeah, the government wouldn't care about your soccer team.
Yeah, I mean, the government sometimes cares, but
Well, I guess,
they don't. They're not in decision. They don't make the decision. It's the Federation. But so unless if I'm wrong about how Nigeria does it, but it is through the Football Federation. So I think that's something they did get incorrect there. But yeah, so unless he meant government of football, which he could have meant. There you go. Fixed it for you. But he doesn't get called up, but we do get Van Damme called up for Canada, and we get Dani Rojas picked up by Mexico. And as soon as he knows he's
baby.
CONCACAF, Stateside Soccer Show. As soon as he's picked up, announced that he's going to Mexico, he just immediately puts the wall up, right? It's like Van Damme is shunned. He won't talk to him. He like totally says we're enemies now. Very, very funny bit. And even when they go, I'm surprised they actually showed the plane, because that means they had to like build a set for this plane. But they showed the plane where Van Damme is asking him about like, do you want these Doritos? And he just crumples it up, tosses it, no words, pretty much. And he's going to break Van Damme's nose with his shot when they're playing against each other. By the way, the score bug was Apple's MLS score bug.
Was it really? I didn't even notice.
It was close to it if it wasn't. It was like very simple, very Apple score bug. But yeah, so there you go. Canada and Mexico faced off, and did they? I forget what they said. Did I see what the score was?
Mexico won.
Yeah, but Dani didn't score, right? He purposely broke his nose. Is that what we're led to believe here?
Yeah, and I love it because when they come back, and Van Damme's standing in the locker room at AFC Richmond, and Dani just comes back because as soon as he puts that wall up, you see the soul side of Dani that's just this cold,
no smile,
badass. Like, I'm not gonna smile. And then he comes back in the locker room and he's all the Dani Rojas that we normally see running around and dancing.
Says like amigo, and he's got the smile.
He goes, fun. We had a lot of fun. And Van Damme's like,
Van Damme's scared. He's like recoiling.
Yeah. I was dying the whole time whenever they were on the screen, especially the chip thing, because he just looks at him with his sunglasses on and just crushes it. And he's like, no, amigo. Like, we are not friends.
Yeah, well, that was a side of Dani Rojas we have not seen before. So that was interesting. Bumbercatch got called up for the Swiss national team. Colin got called up for the Welsh team, which we didn't really get to see him do anything there. And Jamie Tartt makes his debut for the English national team. And he knows how torn up Sam was about this. So what does he do? To honor him, he wears number 24. This brought me to tears as well. Got me a little choked up here. I was like, oh my God, Jamie. Best character arc in the whole show is Jamie Tartt.
Oh, by far. But you know, I like when Bumbercatch was like, yeah, I'm Swiss, or I'm from Switzerland, or was it Switzerland, or he's Swiss?
Switzerland.
Yeah. So he's like, he goes, oh, yeah, I'm gonna play for the Switzerland team, and I think it was Ted that goes, really? I didn't know that. And he goes, look at me, coach. I was like, what does that mean? I'm so confused. I was like, was that supposed to be a joke? I'm so lost on that joke. I was like, what?
I think it is a joke. I think it's that, like, I don't know if a
look like your
Swiss
stereotypical person.
Yeah, he doesn't really look like your stereotypical Swiss person.
That confused me, but I was like, oh, okay. But yeah, no, that was great what Jamie did. I love that. But also Jamie does something else in this episode that I was like, geez, like is he just trying to rip my heart out and just like stomp on it?
Oh, the
it's
note.
just like, oh yeah, like
that you can't read.
No, the Roy. He does Roy.
I thought you meant Roy doing something.
Oh, no,
yeah,
no,
Jamie
no,
did something. Yeah.
No, I like the Roy one too. That was funny.
Yeah. Oh no, because let's talk Jamie then, I guess, too. Jamie. Well, they have Uncle's Day, right?
Yeah.
Phoebe throws like Uncle Day, which isn't real, and we meet Roy's sister, who we've seen before. She was the ER nurse
for the doctor.
Ted
what's
takes
her name?
somebody there.
The Dr. Sharon when she falls off her bike.
Yep. And so we have confirmation. That was a theory that people were posting around, but we got confirmation that those are related. Jamie is a big fan of Roy's sister. And so we get this like nice scene of Uncle's Day, and she invites Jamie because Jamie is Roy's best friend, and Roy is like, what? And then Jamie says that Isaac is his best friend, and Roy gets a little jealous here with that, but I think Jamie's just getting under his skin here. But he gives Roy a jersey, right? England jersey, 2014 World Cup. And but he replaced the E with a U. I love, by the way, Phoebe. If you watch her this whole scene, she is like puzzled and is trying to figure it out. And then when she does, she's like, and that's when she says, "You got to give me that, give me that pound or whatever." Really good acting by little Phoebe there, and I loved it. If you want to know what it spells out, just write down KUNT and then pronounce it, and you'll know what it was. Because I'm not saying it.
Yeah.
It's funny though. It's like very acceptable in England and especially Australia.
100%. Yeah, they use it as just normal language at times. So
I mean, you met Michael when he was on program. That was one of his favorite things to say. I would never say it.
Yeah, neither would I. I wouldn't either. So nope. It's like one of the ones I won't say. It's just I don't like saying it.
But for some reason in English or over here in America, that is like the worst thing you could say to somebody. And over there, they're all chummy, and it's like calling somebody a dick. Joyously. They always use it in a very happy tone.
It is. Yeah.
But yeah, so that was a fun part. Really liked that. And then going off of that with Roy, I was wrong last week. I kind of thought that we maybe wouldn't get Roy and Keely, but he shows up and gives Keely a note that is very hard to read because of his very small handwriting. And there you go. You're led to believe that she went into the house by herself. You're not supposed to know what she did, but then when Rebecca stops by, you see Roy coming down in like a robe and just gives Rebecca the nod. So you think that this is not for sure then that these two end up together then?
I mean, I think it is. I think they'll run into some kind of turmoil, obviously, with Jamie. Like, I think that's got to happen this episode because I think, like, we haven't gotten into the synopsis, but they're headed somewhere where Jamie once was. I think that there's a couple things that are building. I think Jamie's father has another appearance at some point coming up. So I think there's still a couple things. Maybe we see Jamie's mom because he's oftentimes talked about her as well. I still think Jamie is got a lot of story left to tell. So I think we get more on him. But I'm not sure. I thought it was too easy with Keely and Roy. And maybe, this show doesn't like to follow those stereotypical like paths that a lot of TV shows. So maybe they are fine. But I think they're going to have to explain to Jamie that, and Roy and Jamie are such good friends now, right? Best friends, as Phoebe would say.
Yeah, I think they'll actually. I don't think there will be any problem with Jamie regarding this. Jamie kind of already apologized to Keely about the leak. He said that he had deleted everything when he knew they weren't going to get back together again. He hasn't really made a move on her. And I think he respects Roy and that relationship. So I do think everything will be fine going forward with that. But yeah, I mean, let's talk about Keely and Jack. Did Jack plan this? Jack gets a hold of Keely via text at one point and says that, oh, no, I'm in South Africa. I had no idea that they were doing this so soon. I tried to turn them around on closing and the funding of this place, but I think she doth protest too much, maybe. I think that she knew exactly what was going to happen because Jack somehow got a hold of Barbara.
Yeah, I think it's a front. Like I want to say she knew, and that's why she fled. I want to say that the company got in trouble, and that's why she's in South America. I think she's in. I don't know where she's, but I think she fled. I think that the company got into trouble that was funding her, and that's why they left.
I think this is what I think. I think she didn't like that they broke up, and she just was the one that led to pull the funding and said, I'm going to South America or South Africa, wherever she was going. And I'm going to be hard to get in touch with because I don't want to deal with Keely.
That's a good point too. Yeah.
I think that's kind of what her plan was. And then when Keely kind of confronts her about it, it's like, oh no, sorry, I didn't have service. I was down here. But somehow Barbara says I got an email. Barbara got an email. Whether from Jack or Jack's bosses, but I don't know. I think we're led to believe that it was more shady to really make us not like Jack, to make us more okay with her hooking up with Roy again. Which is, if so, what was the point of Jack anyway? That is something I will kind of question. Is it just because they had more episodes that they decided to fill this character in? She only really showed up in 3 or 4, and the relationship was done in like an episode, and then they're, the funding's pooled. Just kind of wondering what the point of that was, if they made us kind of like her at first and then immediately turned us on her and then pulled Keely's dream out from under her too. I don't know. I guess we'll have to see where the KJPR story goes. Apparently now Rebecca's going to fund it instead. That's what she's over there talking with Keely about. So who knows on how that goes, or is the story done now? Are we done with KJPR because Rebecca's got the funding now and we'll just kind of see her kind of rebuild? She brought Barbara back. I don't know. I think that's an interesting thing. And if so, why didn't Rebecca just fund it to begin with?
I like that part though, where she comes in and Kiwi's like, they pulled funding, and Rebecca goes, how much? And Kiwi's like, I don't really, I don't think there's any chance, Rebecca, that you have that much money. And Rebecca goes, no, seriously, tell me how much. And so Keely writes it down. She goes, what are you doing? Why are you writing it down? She goes, that's what they do in the movies, isn't it? Where they write it down. And she wrote down the price and she showed Rebecca. And Rebecca goes, I think I have that in my purse. Like, basically, like, I have that much money.
How much do you think it was?
Oh, man, funding like that? I mean,
especially
I guess
to have in her purse. I feel like it can't be as...
Maybe like 10 million or something like that. Like, I don't know. Like, it seemed like a relatively big firm. And that office was a pretty sweet dig, especially in London, at least 10 million. Like, quite a bit of money. But again, to Rebecca, 10 million, 20 million, that's not a lot of money for her.
Yeah.
So
that's a transfer for like a
right.
lower league player.
Yeah, right. So I think that's how much, like more in that range. I wouldn't say 100 million, like that's a lot of money. So yeah, I'd say 10 to 20. But I just like that she laughed it off like, psh.
Yeah. You're led to believe that she's like, oh no, that's a high number, and then it's like, no, I got that in my purse, which I don't actually think she does, but I think it's just to show
It's just a funny
Keely,
joke. Yeah,
and to show Keely that's nothing to me, so don't
because you're my
worry
friend
about it.
Yeah,
You're my friend. Don't worry about it. It's not like this big deal. If you asked me for 10 million, I'm gonna laugh in your face because I don't.
Jordan, I was gonna wait till after the show, but I know you have it in your backpack behind you, so
yes, right
just
here.
send that over. Yep,
no problem. Do you want it in ones or hundreds? Like, what do you?
How are you gonna do? What's ever easier? Like wire.
Ones make it look like it's a lot more, so I
Yeah,
might do
wire
that.
it over.
All right. I also saw some theories with the whole Sam and Edwin Akufo thing that, Sam was supposed to put security cameras in the restaurant. Akufo clearly out loud says that he bribed the government or federation to not let Sam in there. So is that on camera? I don't know. I kind of feel like I don't really know where they're going with this.
Yeah, this was a really tough one for me because it's like that's pretty villainous for the last 2 episodes and not have any kind of like something's
Sam
got
being
to
like,
give.
well, I'm effed.
Yeah.
Like I can't get on the team now.
Yep.
But he does show a resolve, right? He posts the 1994 World Cup picture in his locker. I think that's his goal. Is still going to get on Nigeria. But I don't know if he knows everything that went on with Akufo and the Super League. I don't know how big of news that is. Also, I loved Roy wearing the tie-dye shirt too. He actually pulled it off. He looked pretty good at it.
Yeah, he did.
Better than I would in tie-dye. Okay, so I guess let's wrap it up with Rebecca in the Super League. Because I don't think Ted had another storyline this episode. He's kind of been in the background. I don't know if Jason was doing other stuff.
Okay with. Like I'm totally okay with it. Like I feel like we got enough of him. Like the first 2 seasons. You know what I mean? Like I feel like these next 2 episodes are going to be so Ted heavy.
I hope so.
Because I feel like a lot of them have gotten. Yeah, I guess. Well, it's because he's coming over to do season 4 with SKC. I mean,
yeah. He's like, I got a whole nother season still. No, but it is interesting that a show called Ted Lasso has featured very little Ted Lasso, and which could be the last season for Ted Lasso. So hopefully these last 2 we get some heavy Ted Lasso stuff, so we get a nice send off. He's kind of just been sitting at his desk nodding.
Yeah, on his phone. The guy can't get off his phone. Just take the damn thing away from him.
Kids these days.
Get the hell out there, Ted. What are you? Get out.
Your screen time is up 52% this week. You got to get out.
I love it. Beard, and Beard likes to tell people get the hell out of his office. Like, get the hell out of the office. Let's go.
But Rebecca, so she gets invited. This was the proposition for the Super League. Logan, can you break this down for people that may not actually follow soccer?
Yeah, so the big 6, as they'll call them in the Premier League: Manchester City, Manchester United, Liverpool, was it Tottenham, Chelsea, and Arsenal. Those are the big 6 that they'll call, and they'll reference them oftentimes. The big 6, a lot of them American owners, decided to get greedy, and that's all this is. It's greed. It's more money. It has nothing to do with growing the game. It actually destroys the game on the local levels because it takes away all the talent, all the money that these clubs would get. So if you don't know anything about the Premier League actually pays its smaller clubs that don't get a ton of the revenue and TV revenue. They actually tier the money so that each of those smaller clubs do get money. So it is nice for the big clubs to be around because obviously the competition's better, but also all that money that they get through TV rights, TV revenue, all that kind of likeness and stuff, that's all shared with the smaller clubs. So they do a really nice job of sharing revenue. But if these big clubs just form this huge Super League, which they want to do, the plan was, I think this was back in 2020, 2021, was when they planned 2021, I think, right? Like right at the beginning of 2021. They planned on taking those 6 clubs out of the Premier League. They were going to leave the Premier League and compete in this competition with all the other big super clubs in Europe.
Like Bayern, Barca, Madrid.
The 2 Mons, Madrid, Barcelona, like so the big clubs in Italy, Spain, Germany. And so they were going to create this league. It would have destroyed football as we know it. It would not have been the same. And it really was going to crush like the smaller leagues. And the smaller leagues, I mean, these people are people that are just so passionate about their clubs, and none of them would have probably survived this. So it fell through. They actually got such backlash from the fan base, which was awesome to see. The fans just absolutely went nuts. Stormed Manchester United Stadium when it was
protests
closed.
in the streets.
Protests in the streets. I don't condone this, but standing outside the owners' houses and apartments and like being relentless about just hearing, letting their voice be heard. Not any kind of violence, but it was always just protest after protest. And finally they got it disbanded. I think it's still actually technically still alive with like 2 clubs, but they don't actually compete in that league because there's nobody left. But that's just the gist. All the rich want to get richer. All the poor clubs that would have been demolished because of it. We're glad it never happened. And I can remember doing that episode when that was all announced, that all 3 of us were just like, it made you feel sick. Like it was just the greedy, the 1% wanting to get even more money.
And that's kind of highlighted here in this episode when Akufo's like, open up these projections, and all the rich guys like, yeah, this looks great. And Rebecca's argument is pretty much the argument that all actual soccer fans were using of it's going to kill the game type of thought, because like you said, that money trickles down, especially in the Premier League. And the Premier League, actually, none of their clubs should even be interested in it because it is the strongest league internationally. We're talking about selling TV rights and how popular, most views and all this kind of stuff, to where the lower Premier League clubs are actually starting to outspend. The Premier League itself is outspending. The reason why Spain clubs like Barca and Madrid wanted to do this was because they were being left behind by the Premier League. So their thought is, let's kind of like cut this off so that way that money flows to us instead of flowing to like Newcastle. And it didn't work. But they keep trying it. They will keep trying it. And Rebecca's speech was really great. And I love that they brought up the Rupert thing, because I knew this was going to come back around when she says, he had talked about how he used to sneak into the club, and she brings it up without naming names. But, Rupert knows who she's talking about. And maybe some of the other people do if Rupert tells the story a lot. But, you used to sneak into this club. It meant something to you before you owned it. You can't just sell this for more money. Like, you know what I'm saying? You can't, now you're using it for money. Rebecca was coming at it from the perspective of how a fan does. None of these owners would probably actually look at it like that unless if they are a fan themselves. This is going to shift Rebecca's whole idea at the end here when she talks to Ted and said that she doesn't really have that feud with Rupert anymore. She wants to win it for the actual fans, for the city of Richmond, the little district of Richmond. She wants to win for them, for the club, not just to get back at Rupert. So this is some character growth on her end. One thing that's a little unbelievable about this: one, that Richmond's invited. Two, that that we don't see the fans' perspective of hearing that Richmond was involved, because I would have loved to see the pub people respond to that, like the Baz and the other 2 guys be like, whoa, we don't want this. And you could kind of see how then what the fans were thinking, instead of just getting the Higgins saying it's bad and Rebecca saying it's bad. I think they could have gotten the fan perspective. They could have showed them protesting or whatever, but probably didn't have enough time. But anyway, that's kind of the gist of the Super League, and it would be kind of detrimental to the football system over in England and Europe, and that's why they kind of touched on it here. And it is something that somebody like Edwin Akufo would come up with to try to entice them.
Yeah, I think my favorite line, and it was a line that was used. I forget who said it. It was one of the clubs that said it, but that, or maybe it was Gary Neville, that, yeah, it was Gary Neville. He said, these clubs don't belong to you. Like, and I think that's where they got this quote from, is like, that club does not belong to you. We just run it. This club belongs to the fans because they're the ones that are constantly in it. So like, it was like that sense, like I get chills saying that, but I was like, dang, like that was so realistic, because that's exactly what Gary Neville said when he went off, because he was a Manchester United fan, or a player. He's a
player
Manchester
there.
United
But
fan.
He was a youth product
up,
there.
Yes,
so
he grew up with United.
With it.
Yeah. And he was like, in the US, I felt like that would have gone a whole different direction. I felt like they had no backboned it, completely let it happen. Money would have been made. We'd be talking Super League. But over there, he was like, damn you, United. Like, damn you, damn your everybody involved in this decision. You are awful. Like, you are all, and he wasn't even making excuses. He said, you are greedy. You just want money. Like, these Americans came over, they just took over the club, and they're running this thing into the ground. Like, it really did. It had that feeling, and it had that visceral. Like, I can remember that was the only time that sports ever made me feel like disgusting. Like, that was disgusting. Like, that whole thing made me like sick. I was like, oh, like, this is so gross. We were watching it the other day, Jordan. Ashley turned to me and goes, oh, I remember this. This happened to your club. I was like, holy crap. Like, somebody that doesn't even pay attention to the club or soccer, like, she knew. Like, she's like, this is that shit that you went through. I was like, yeah, like, this was it. Like, this is exactly what it was. So, I don't know. It was really cool that they pulled that in. I was kind of glad that they did. As soon as they mentioned, I wanted to text you and go, we're idiots. Why didn't we think of this? Like, you know,
Right.
Why didn't we think, duh, it's a Super League? I guess because Richmond wouldn't typically be involved in the Super League. But,
yeah. It'd be like, wait, what?
Right. Why was a mid-tier club hanging out? It'd be like West Ham.
Yeah, West Ham and Richmond were in there, but we didn't see like Man City or Chelsea.
Yeah, no.
But yeah, so there you go. That's what that's about. Let's go ahead and preview the next episode, which is called Mom City. An unexpected guest has Ted on edge. When Richmond travel to Manchester for a big match, Roy and Keely become concerned about Jamie. Mom City, Man City, Jamie. Does this have something to do with Jamie's mom? Maybe not his dad.
We get a lot about his mom. Like, he talks about his mom
in season 1.
Yeah, and how
he wanted to just make her proud.
Yeah, and he oftentimes felt like he was letting her down because of the way he was, but he was that way because of his dad. And I'm pretty sure the mom probably divorced the dad because of the way that he did that to Jamie. I think that's where we're headed. The only other thing I could think of that unexpected, maybe it's Ted, but I was like, is Ted's mom still alive? That's what. Yeah, I don't know. Like, but then I'm like,
his
how would
dad's
that make sense? Yeah, but how would that make sense? You know what I mean? Like, where would she fit? Because we haven't gotten a real ton on Ted, so like, I don't.
That'd be very late. Yeah, that'd be very late to introduce the mom.
Like, and why? Because he's not really having that internal struggle. I feel like Ted's pretty much resolved his things. He's just got Nate to deal with. Whereas like Jamie, I still feel like Jamie's got the most to go still as far as story.
Yeah, I think it has to do with Jamie's mom.
Same. Who's the unexpected guest then?
The unexpected guest is
Nate,
Nate or Michelle.
Yeah, I was thinking Michelle too.
We gotta wrap that. Dr. Jacob, he shows up.
Yeah, Dr. Sharon just comes out of nowhere with her new boyfriend.
No, what I heard is that the reason why she hasn't been on and they had to write her off is because she did get another show. So that is why Dr. Sharon is not on the show this season, and why they did 2 quick wrap-ups where she's barely any help, which sucks. I wish they could have written her off in a way that felt more like Dr. Sharon. From season
maybe
2.
like gotten hired for another club and said, yeah, my help was needed elsewhere. I feel like you've got.
Well, that's pretty much what it is, right? She's doing rugby.
Yeah.
They could have just had her like
meet with Ted one last time and say, I'm moving, and so we will no longer be able to.
Or if they had to do the video call stuff, just like, unfortunately, Ted, I have to stop seeing you because I have like 11 rugby players a week.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Or I'm working. They could have written it as I'm working for another club that's not AFC Richmond, the Premier League, and I technically can't talk to you. That's what it should have been.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like conflict of interest kind of thing.
Yeah. It just seemed weird when she's like, we're done. I got to go sleep with this guy. I'm
like, that hot rugby player.
What is going on, Dr. Sharon?
Lost the plot. She got disbarred.
But yeah, this episode is going to be written by Joe Kelly with the story by Brendan Hunt and Jason Sudeikis, which means they usually came up with like an outline, and then Joe Kelly is the one that actually wrote the script. That's what that means. So there you go. I'm excited for it. I'm looking forward to it. An hour and 9 minutes, a little long, but you can fit a lot in with that. It makes me think that we've kind of placed bets on this already, but the finale's got to be an hour and a half.
Yeah, I think so.
At least an hour 15, I think.
Stranger Things didn't do it 2 hours. 2 hours. Let's go. Come on.
Oh my God, that'd be way too long.
I'd watch
2
it.
hours. 2 hours. I'd be like, is there enough that they actually still have to cover in 2
Right.
hours?
Yeah.
I think an hour and a half is the sweet spot. Hour 20. Something like that for the finale. All right. Well, if you want to give us any sort of feedback at Stateside Show on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram.
Do you want to
we didn't do our player of the week or
You
anything.
forget
Okay,
about
yeah. My bad.
Be quick.
Who was your executive of the week?
Executive of the week. Oof.
Employee of the week, whatever.
Employee of the week. I'm gonna go with Higgins. He was really good in this episode. Just some really funny comments about the Super League. I thought that he had some good moments as far as just the club's concerned. So I don't know. I really liked Higgins in this. I thought he had some kind of good one-liners, and we don't really get a ton of them working with the actual team itself. But I thought Higgins with a couple of his one-liners and about the Super League were really funny. So I enjoyed that. And that's my first time, I think, picking Higgins. So
I'm actually going to go Rebecca for shutting down that Super League. This is what I'm going to have to go with here. And for player of the week, I'm going to go Jamie for wearing number 24 for Sam. I think that was a huge moment in his character growth, and just to show Sam that we're with you. I really like that.
Got to go Dani Rojas. You never see that side of him. And I think that he's a brilliant actor just because he is so happy and positive and Mr. Happy-Go-Lucky. All of a sudden, he turned into this jerk asshole that just crushed Van Damme's chips. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was like, he's going to forget about it, and then he's going to be like, oh, shoot, I forgot to do it.
Yeah, no, that was good. I was just writing that down. All right. Well, thank you all for watching and listening. If you want to give us feedback at Stateside Show on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, email. You can also reach us at believe_cast on Twitter as well. Thank you all for watching and listening. We'll catch you next time when we break down the penultimate episode of season 3.